We round out to electric vehicle charging stations, legal regulations, and EU practices. Professor Erdem, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so please feel free to start. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm now trying to share my screen for the presentation. I guess you could see right now. Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, dear chair, again. Unfortunately, I'm also not available to provide my cam as well due to specific reasons. Nevertheless, I can share the screen for whom might want to follow in a virtual way. Hope that works. All right, then. So I'm very glad to have the chance to share some thoughts with you today. The topic I will be speaking about comes directly from a chapter I've contributed to the upcoming edited volume titled Regulatory Challenges for a Just Energy Transition. And I will try to explain very briefly as a last speaker for a better time management. So let me start then. When we speak about green transition, electric vehicles often symbolize hope, quiet streets, clean air, and modern technology. But there is a practical truth behind that optimism. An electric vehicle is not as useful as the charger that powers it. Charging infrastructure, in many ways, the bloodstream of sustainable transport. It's where law, economics, engineering, and consumer rights converge. Every time someone plugs in a vehicle, they are not just accessing electricity, they are entering a legal environment shaped by competition law, data protection, energy regulation, and maybe environmental policy. And the European Union, recognizing this, has spent the past decade developing a multi-layered legal architecture that ensures electric vehicles charging networks are not only built, but also fair, transparent, and interoperable. And this story begins in 2014 with the Alternative Fuels Infrastructure Directive, better known as AFID. It was Europe's first attempt to coordinate national efforts, asking member states to set up policy frameworks for alternative fuels and charging infrastructure. And it laid down the vision, but like many directives, it left too much discretion and progress turned out uneven. That's why a decade later, the EU introduced the Alternative Fuels Infrastructure Regulation, or we can call it AFIR, which came into force in April 2024. Unlike AFID, this regulation doesn't just encourage, it obliges. It sets clear, binding targets, uniform technical standards, and a Europe-wide commitment to accessibility. Let me take a moment to walk you through its key dimensions, because these truly define how Europe is shaping the charging ecosystem of the future. First, AFIR guarantees physical availability. It requires member states to install fast charging points along major transport routes, the so-called 10T corridors, so that drivers can move freely across the continent. The rule of thumb is that on these corridors, you shouldn't drive more than an hour without finding a reliable fast charger. It's a legal translation of the idea that range anxiety should no longer be a barrier to clean mobility. Second, AFIR harmonizes technology. It standardizes connectors, the combined charging system too. The uniformity might sound technical. It is, in fact, one of the regulation's strongest consumer protections. Then there is the question of payment and transparency. AFIR explicitly bans closed networks that only work with proprietary apps or memberships. It insists that every public charger must allow ad hoc payments by card, by contactless method, or through simple digital means. The principle is clear. If you can buy a coffee without an account, you should be able to buy electricity without one too. And finally, AFIR introduces a culture of open data. Operators must publish in real time where their charges are, what they cost, and whether they are functioning or not. This information must be accessible through open interfaces, encouraging innovation in navigation systems, mobile apps, and data-driven mobility services. When you look at these elements together, you see how FEAR is not just an infrastructure policy, it's a rights-based framework for how energy, technology, and consumers impact. Of course, FEAR doesn't stand alone. It fits into a wider legal mosaic. The Electricity Market Directive, we can say AMD or EMD, integrates charging into broader energy market. It guarantees that operators can access the grid on fair and non-discriminatory terms. So we can call it in competition law friend. The Connecting Europe facility, CEF, on the other hand, provides the financial muscle. Through CEF funding, the EU co-finances up to 70% of installation costs, particularly in less developed or rural regions. And it ensures that charging networks grow not only in capital cities, but also in remote areas. And then we have RED II, the Renewable Energy Directive, which ensures that the electricity powering these stations increasingly comes from renewable sources, because it's not enough for cars to be electric. The electricity itself must be clean. Together, these instruments form a legal ecosystem that's technically coherent, economically incentivized, and environmentally aligned. From a legal scholar's perspective, the practical questions might be what kind of service is charging station, or who licenses it, or what duties do operators owe to consumers. So for answering those questions under FEAR, stations are categorized by access type, public or private, and by power output. Public stations must provide non-discriminatory access to all users, while private ones, such as those in homes or workplaces, are regulated more lightly. This classification determines rights and obligations. For example, public operators must display transparent prices and offer open payment options, and private users like fleet owners may be exempt from the duties but lose access to public funding mechanisms. And in terms of licensing and authorization, licensing remains a national competence. Each member state defines its process, sometimes involving municipal construction permits, environmental approvals, and grid connection agreements. However, the trend across Europe is towards simplification. Some countries now use digital one-stop portals where operators can complete every step online. This is a positive direction, especially as the EU plans to digitalize administrative procedures across energy sectors. And in terms of obligations of service providers, perhaps the most demanding part for operators lies in ongoing compliance. FEAR requires transparency in pricing and reliability in service. It also links directly to the GDPR, ensuring that when a consumer location or payment data are processed, their privacy must be protected under GDPR. And beyond data privacy, there is the rising issue of cybersecurity as well. According to European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, about 15% of cyber incidents in the energy sector already involve IoT-based devices, including electronic vehicle chargers. And naturally, when millions of drivers interact daily with this infrastructure, disputes are inevitable. Billing errors, non-functioning chargers, unclear pricing, or unfair contract terms that can be listed. European law addresses this in two complementary ways. First, FEAR ensures clarity and fairness, so cost must be shown per kilowatt hour. All additional fees must be visible, and users must be able to pay without any pre-contract. Second, the Consumer Rights Directive gives broader protections. such as withdrawal rights, compensation for defective services, and remedies in case of misleading information. And if conflicts still arise, there is an established hierarchy for addressing those mechanisms, like local consumer protection agencies, alternative dispute resolution bodies, or EU's online dispute resolution platform could work. Stepping back, it's fascinating to see how different legal systems approach the same challenge. In the United States, the focus is on massive investment through the NEVI program, $5 billion for 500,000 charges, but the legal rules differ state by state. And consumer protection is largely local, and interoperability remains patchy. In China, the system is more centralized. The State Grid Corporation oversees the rollout. And meanwhile, Japan relies on its own technical ecosystem. And India, as far as I checked, through its FAME2 program, is rapidly catching up with corridor-based networks. But law, never static, especially in a field driven by innovation. And we are now seeing the rise of wireless charging technologies, both stationary in motion. And these systems challenge the assumptions built into current law, which is designed for fixed wired charges. Issues like electromagnetic safety, metering accuracy, and cross-compatibility will all require fresh regulation. And then there is a data dimension. As vehicles become autonomous and charging fully automated, huge volumes of real-time data will flow between vehicles, grids, and charging points. So we also should focus on the GDPR. And let me close with a simple observation. Infrastructure is not about steel, cables, and software. It's about trust between providers and consumers. And the EU's approach to AFIR, the Electricity Market Directive, the CEF, or the RED II, all of those shows that we can build network that is reliable, not only technically, but also legally and ethically. And if we ensure that every driver can charge easily, pay transparently, and trust that their data is safe, then electricity might be sustainable. So the provision of electricity must be sustainable, but truly human-centered. So as Europe continues this journey, the challenge is no longer whether we can build enough charges. It's whether we can keep building trust every connection point between technology, market, and law. So thank you very much for your attention, and please forgive me if I look a little sleep deprived today. I wish all of you a great and productive conference. It's always nice to touch other scholars in person. I wish next year we could be together again. Have a great rest of your sessions and a dinner in advance. Thank you, dear Chair. Sorry for the inconvenience about sharing my slides, but I can provide if anyone interested.